Up, everyone? It is your homegirl, your heavenly homegirl, Jamie. Welcome back to another episode of One Blast, the podcast for the last. And who is the last? Who are the last? Who is the last? Y'all already know. Mark chapter 10, verse 31. Many who are first will be last, and the last, that's us, y'all. The last will be first, baby. So now the purpose of this podcast, if this is your first time joining me, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And the purpose of this podcast is to navigate through the journey of change when transitioning into a new calling that God may have on your life. Whether you know exactly what that calling is or you're still in the midst of figuring it out, it's time to let go of that fearfulness and increase that faithfulness. Yes, baby. Okay. Now, whether it's your first time here or you've been here before, have you liked and subscribed? If not, please do so from whatever platform you're listening to. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit your notifications, like, and share this video with a friend. So what are we blasting today, y'all? Well, I had the opportunity to sit down with Naomi, who is the creator of Place of Peace Ministries. And we just really dug into what it looks like from her calling's point of view, the gifting that God gave her. And it was just so much fun and just so much good information to see that one person can have such a ripple effect on other people. So go ahead, grab your popcorn, and you might want to get a pen and paper too. Take notes as we dive into this interview with Naomi. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm very excited to have you here. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Yes. Well, thank you, Jamie, for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. There's a purpose for me to be here, so I'm excited to see what comes of this, what the Lord is doing with your podcast. And so, my name is Naomi. I am a daughter of Christ. I am a social worker, a sister, a daughter, a friend, an entrepreneur, and a um, ministry holder. Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are. Now, the last time I saw you, we were at a retreat, Place of Peace Ministries retreat. And I just feel like if Vegas had a polar opposite, it was there because it felt like what happened there stayed there. And
Mm,
not that we weren't, not that we couldn't share it with the world, but it was
yeah.
just like, nobody's going to understand what just happened here. So we're just gonna keep this to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, but so when did you decide that it was the right time for you to create this ministry?
So I didn't know, but of course the Lord did. But He had already had me walking in the ministry. There was no name to it. There was no labels. There was nothing structured about it. But He did have people come to my house before that. And I thought it was just like, yeah, come on over. And then like the Lord had His way at my house, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I've had family get baptized at my house.
Wow.
I've had friends come over, and then, like I mentioned, the Lord just did what He did best. And I was just like, I love this. And so I actually moved to that home because of the peace that I felt.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So that is why I am there, because the work that I do professionally is very stressful, very taxing as a social worker. It's emotionally trying. So I said, Lord, I want to be somewhere where I feel your peace at all times. I don't want to just go on vacation and then go back home. And so the Lord provided. He allowed me to move where I am, and He used that place obviously for others. And so last year, while in prayer, basically he was just letting me know, like, he was letting me know that He was forming what He had already been doing into more of a structure.
Mhm.
And um, the name, the place of peace, I already had. The Lord had already given it to me because I felt that way about my home. And so then he just connected it to, he was like, yeah, the name that you call your home, I would like you to call my ministry the place of peace.
Oh,
And then
that's
the logo that I have was already created back when I was in high school. I used to do a lot of drawing and creating in high school. And so he, gave me a vision like this is what I want for the logo. And then that's how we got started last year.
that's amazing. It's always so amazing to me how God connects those things. Like for me with this podcast, I mean, years and years ago, I would have never thought, like, yeah, let me start a podcast.
Yeah.
But when some of my first classes that I took in college were film, TV, and video, and they were
Mhm.
editing, and I'm like, and I hated editing. But here we are all these years later, I am using those skills and, it's just God aligning things one by one
Yeah.
from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
And it is just amazing how he moves, when you actually do surrender yourself to him
Yeah.
and allow him to lead you. It's one of the most amazing things that I've experienced. And
Yeah.
so as far as, your journey leading up to this ministry, so and your walk with Christ, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the church, but it was only really until the pandemic where I completely surrendered my life. The Lord was he was convicting me. He was like, this is not, I understand you know who I am, but I want a deeper relationship with you, daughter. And
Yeah.
so he really consecrated me, separated me during the pandemic, which is an interesting time where we couldn't really go out or do anything anyways. And so that was a time where the Lord was like, this is what I want from you for you. These are the things that are hindering you from having a deeper relationship with me. And so I said, okay, Lord, I hear you. I want more of you. I want to be at the pearly gates. I want to, look at you and say, Jesus, thank you. And for him to say, good and faithful daughter. So it was during the pandemic where I decided to surrender my life completely, which meant losing some friendships, stopping
Yeah.
some of the things the habits that I had, just basically he had me in my home, in my own type of pandemic. It was just me and him, and he was just ministering to me. I spent many mornings and many nights in prayer and just seeking after him and allowing him to basically just cleanse me, prune me. I think it was like a wilderness type of season where it was just me and him, and
Mhm.
just basically having him, press down and shape me into who he's still creating me to be.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think a lot of people get confused with I know God and I worship God and I surrender to God because
Yeah,
you don't really start seeing that movement in your life until you actually completely fully surrender. And
yeah,
like you said, that might mean losing friends that, your habits change, things become different.
yeah,
And but at that point, it's always like, you know what? It's either my friends and my habits or it's God. And
yeah,
I mean, hello.
yes,
There's no contest. At that point, there's no contest.
yeah.
So I was reading, and I did read that churches in the United States are in a decline. Um, right. And so for me, thinking about Place of Peace Ministries and seeing what we have done, or what I should say, not we, but what you have done for so many other people, including me, is just a testimony to that because even though churches are declining, churches are closing, but this type of ministry is far beyond, first of all, what I've ever experienced inside of a
Mhm.
church. So how can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. There was words spoken over my life that there would be groups of women coming to my home.
Mhm.
And that was before the ministry was even a ministry. And so I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't even know how I would steward that, but it was just spoken over my life that there would be people coming to my home and that my home would be used for God's glory. And so that's how it started during the pandemic, which was interesting because I was thinking, people coming into my home during the pandemic. Lord,
Right.
that's usually we're supposed to shelter in place. Yes. And, of course, we are children of God and we believe that we are healed and we are protected by the blood. But at the same time, it's like you're inviting people who maybe you do not know where they came from into your home. But the Lord said yes. And so it was during the pandemic where my home was opened up to his children.
Wow.
And I allowed him to have his way. I trusted that if you're going to have people in my home, that we're all going to be protected by you because it's something that you orchestrated.
Yes.
And that's how it began. It literally was just something birthed when, like you mentioned, the churches were closing down.
Mhm.
My home opened up for the glory of
Right.
God.
Yes. And it's again just things falling into place in that order.
Yeah.
Right when churches in America were forced to close down is when your
Yeah.
home opened up.
Yeah.
It just shows you how it just rolls, how God just keeps on rolling.
Yeah.
And with um with being a leader in ministry, I do remember also when we did a hike up to the cross in the Riverside area. And I remember you saying afterwards, like, I was expecting a little bit more from God, as far as like what he was going to lead you to do.
Hmm.
But I remember being at the top of that mountain and just, again, just feeling so much peace
Hmm.
and feeling his presence. And we just, had a brief Bible study and then we were just there in the presence of God.
Yeah.
And it was just a very healing moment. So, do you take the time to like prep or prepare before a ministry event, or do you just kind of let the spirit flow?
Yeah. So, for today, for our conversation today, the Lord was like, let me flow. So I prayed and then I reviewed your notes, but I did not come up with anything to say because the Lord was like, I want to be the one being interviewed today. But for that walk, yes. Usually before each event, the Lord has me fast. I'm in prayer. I'm
Mhm.
usually alone, so I'm not really hanging out with too many family or friends during that time because I want to make sure that I hear the Lord clearly. And so for
Yeah.
that particular event, the Lord didn't say much, and so that in my flesh, I was like, "Well, Jesus, what are we out here doing, Lord?"
Instead of walking and hanging out, huh?
Yeah, and the Lord is doing a new thing each and every time he brings everyone together. And so the walk was the first walk that the Place of Peace Ministries had. And so I said, are we praying while we walk in Jesus? Are we listening to music while we're walking? Are there going to be people around? Like, how is this? What are we doing? And
Yeah.
he really didn't say much at all.
Well, girl, he didn't have to say much because we was up there crying and everything.
Yes, 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 yes.
And just excited and happy to be in such a peaceful place. And oh man, I personally cannot thank you enough for opening up your home, for creating and being obedient to the word of God when he told you to to go ahead and start this ministry. And so at the beginning of the ministry, I know you said it kind of just happened, but did you feel any self-doubt, or, how did you build your faith up to say, okay, God, I'm going to go ahead and do this?
Yeah. Um, so the Lord had, like I mentioned, He had walked me through many things before he revealed that this was the ministry. So I was
Yeah.
already walking in a surrendering, obedient place. He was like, these are the friends that I no longer want you to have relationships with. It was
Mhm.
hard and I
Yeah.
was heartbroken for a few weeks, but his spirit gave me peace and joy. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we moved on forward. He was saying, I don't want you to really listen to secular music during this time, or I want you to
Mhm.
fast more. So I was already walking in, okay, yes, Lord. Okay, yes, Lord. And so it was just another night of prayer where he was just like, the place of peace. And I was like, the place of peace. And then I remember a word spoken over me that there would be, some sort of ministry or some sort of church in my generation. And I was like, oh, are you telling me, Lord, that, this is what we're doing right now? And so just in prayer, he started like revealing like, yes. And, delete your old Instagram, create the Place of Peace Ministries Instagram. And it was just like, just having a conversation with me. And it was gradual. Of course, it wasn't, he didn't hit me all in one night like, this is what I want you to do and this is what you're going to start doing. It was just
Yeah.
gradual over time. He would meet with me during our prayer time together, because I would literally set a time every single night just to spend time with him, and we would be
Mm.
spending time in prayer for hours. And so during that time, he would just share with me his heart and what it was that he wanted me to do. And then actually this month last year is when, he was just like, the Place of Peace Ministries, the Instagram.
Free girl.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so, when he had mentioned it to me, it was like, wow, that's wonderful. But when it started coming into place, like, okay, now I want you to invite these people to your home, or now I want you to go on a walk, or now I want you to have a shut-in. He had led us to do a shut-in over a Zoom. So, before those events, of course, doubt came. Of course, fear
Yeah.
came up, anxiety, like, Lord, am I prepared? Lord, have I sought you enough for this? Lord,
Yeah.
am I enough for this? There's people who I invite, around me, or that the Lord invites around me, who I find that are like much further in their walk. And so I'm like, Lord, will you show up for them in a way that meets their needs as well? And so like I said, he usually has me fast. I'm alone. I'm in prayer, and he's just reassuring me, like, Lord, it is you. It is I that is in you. It is not you that is doing this. And I was like, you're right, because I definitely would not. I
I
would
would.
not be. I would not. Yeah, my introverted, quiet, self would be just in my house with my dog, minding my own business.
Right. Here he is saying, open up your house, girl. Let them know, let everybody in.
Let
We don't have
everybody in, and I want you to lead it too. And it's like, okay, yes, this has to be you, because Naomi would not.
to say, this is not me.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I feel the same way as far as creating this podcast. I mean, I'm very outgoing and I enjoy going places, but I call myself an outgoing introvert. And so
yeah,
one of the reasons why it's easy for me to do this podcast is because most of the time I'm talking to myself. And so it's like, okay, I could do this. This is easy. But it's still at the forefront of it when God told me to create the podcast. It's still, like you said, it creates those feelings of doubt because we're naturally human. And so
hmm
I think that's the time when you have to realize, nope, let me go back to God. Let me pray. Let me push my faith forward so that I can get this thing on and popping, because without him, that is when those negative thoughts and feelings come in.
yeah.
And I remember even having a moment of, I recorded episodes and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna publish these. Like, what?
Mhm.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having that faith and confidence does come directly from God with any type of gift or calling that we have on our lives. And yes, well, is there anything else that you want to add to this wonderful, wonderful interview?
I guess I would tell anyone listening just to surrender. Really, the Lord, there's so much more. Even you and I haven't seen or heard or imagined the things that He has planned for us. And so I just surrender. And what that looks like is, basically dying to self. Like I mentioned, and you even said, Naomi would be asleep right now, if she had her way, or
Jamie would
she.
do too.
Yes, yes, or I would not be basically doing the things of the Lord, because it causes feelings of uncomfort, nervousness, anxiety, doubt, all the things that the flesh, the enemy, is trying to portray. But each time we say yes in obedience, I have personally seen the Lord show up and show out, and it's just like, yes, Lord, I choose you. Yes, yes, I choose you again. And just seeing what he does for his children. He loves us so much. He's so intentional. And so he's just looking for our yes. He knows that we're human, that we have, these emotions of, are we good enough? Can we stop sinning in this way? Can we, turn our lives for the Lord? But the Lord is like, all I need is your yes, and
Right.
I'll do the
That's
rest.
and I will do the rest. That is
Mhm.
literally it. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Naomi, thank you so very much for coming here and sharing your story to the world, sharing God's gift to the world. I can't wait. So please keep me informed of the next Place of Peace Ministries event that you have, because God is always there, whether it was, an hour of a day or an entire weekend. Every experience that I have with Place of Peace, God has always revealed something to me. And I was saying, even sleeping in, sleeping in the closet, and I did talk about that on a different episode, but even sleeping in the closet during that shut-in, God was speaking to me, and I was just like, "Whoo, Lord, thank you."
Wow.
I just wanna thank you for your ministry and for your time, and yes, I'm excited to see you again soon.
Yes, yes. All glory be to God. And he actually has another event coming up. I'll keep you updated. We'll be back in Riverside. I'm sure very, very soon. So I'll keep you
Okay.
updated. And I thank you again for having me. And I thank the Lord for what he's doing in your life and through this ministry.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Second Chronicles 7, starting at verse 14, says, If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive them their sins and will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ear attentive to the prayers offered in this place. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there. If you got anything from that interview, Place of Peace Ministries is all of that. It really is. And I'm so excited that I have had the chance to experience what I have experienced. Now, let me tell y'all, if you don't have yourself a place of peace, go find one. Go make one. It's time to get creative in your calling. But the only way you're going to be successful at that is to humble yourselves, surrender to God, let Him know your thoughts and your feelings, and He will let you know what He wants you to do in this life. Well, that's it, y'all. Just take it in, because it was a lot. I am Jamie, your host of One Blast, the podcast for the last, and I hope that you join me on another episode soon. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, and share this video with a friend, and I will see you on the next episode. Toodles.